Hello, it's Tarkan back with another video. Good to see you all, even though I can't see a single one of you, but you can see me, so I'll just pretend that I can see you. Let's dive right into it. I actually have an email here to read you, a brief email from a viewer and former coaching client who had a question for me and who shall remain nameless, and who requested that I read this email in a video because she figures it might help all of you out there, and I agree. So let's just dive right into it. Hi, Tarkan. I must admit I kind of feel bad about the whole story of what transpired between me and my person. Now, I'm not going to go back into the whole backstory of what happened there, but suffice it to say she's in the same boat that most of you are. She wants to get back with an ex, specific person. And I was thinking about it some more and how I can be a better person and a deliberate creator. I uncovered a major issue I was having and thought maybe this could help others. I just realized that whenever I would touch upon the idea of rejection, I would get a sort of end of the world feeling. Well, I finally decided to dig deeper on why it makes me feel this way. And I noticed that the reason I feel so scared of rejection is for exactly that reason, that my desired manifestations will come to an end if a desired person or some outside factor rejects me. And as a result, I noticed that I was desperately trying to go back in time, just dedicating my energy to change the rejection instead of just focusing on the manifestations I want, regardless of who says yes or no. And the tricky part for me is, how can a person tell when they are feeding too much into a past rejection when manifesting, and how can they move past it and free up that energy for manifesting something better and brand new? Which I feel is possible with the same person, but with any scenario really. And what are your general thoughts on rejection as far as manifesting is concerned? How can I have a more healthy, empowered viewpoint towards this specific issue? So, as far as the question, how can a person tell when they're feeding too much into a past rejection when manifesting? You can tell when you are desperately trying to undo some past rejection. Now, you mentioned this in terms of going into the past, and what I assume you're saying is that you've been engaging in revision, right? Which is I think a powerful technique, and I've talked about this. I think I very recently did a video on this. In fact, I'm not completely opposed to the idea of revision, but I want to add a little caveat to that, okay? And for those of you who don't know, revision is simply a process by which you imagine that a past event that was unwanted, that you didn't like and care for, even a traumatic event, you use your imagination the way we do in manifesting to revise the situation, to simply imagine that a better outcome occurred instead of the outcome that did occur, so that you actually practice the idea of, I wasn't rejected by this person, or we didn't break up, or that day we had that fight ended up, in another way, in a much more wanted and much more, a better way. Let's put it that way. Okay. That's a revision in a nutshell. And I'll probably do another video about it again because it is a topic that I know people are very interested in. But what I wanted to say about that is that if you are desperately trying to revise some past event or trauma or a fight you had or a breakup you had or something that you didn't like very much, it is an indication automatically, really, in a lot of ways, it's an indication that you are kind of obsessing on that situation. Okay. So again, where are you placing your focus? How can you tell when a person is feeding too much into a past rejection? Well, because you're desperately trying to undo that. You're desperately trying to engage in this revision process. Okay. Now, revision is an interesting topic because, can I actually change the outcome of that past event? Well, yes, in a way you can. You're tapping into another parallel reality where that event didn't occur, or where it ended up in a much more positive way. Okay. Now, again, I want to say that this can be very helpful in a therapeutic kind of manner. All right. It can help you heal from that past event. Okay. It can help you deal with the trauma of it or the hurt of it. in terms of feeling that in the now present moment. But remember that the past and the present moment, we're talking about a situation where you're always in the now moment, and throughout your whole life you're always in the now moment, because really time is not linear. It's just a construct by which we sort of function in this 3D reality. We see time as this linear progressive thing, but really it isn't. Okay, so when we talk from a manifesting standpoint, we say that if you're thinking about the past, however you're reacting to it, you're doing it in the present moment. If you're worrying about the future, you're doing it in the present moment. So whatever you're feeling in relation to a past event or a possible future event that you might be worried about, you're doing it in the present moment. So those feelings are coming up for you now, which means you're creating that now. In other words, right now, this moment is always your point of attraction. Okay. You're always creating from now. You're not creating from the past, and you're not creating from the future. Okay. So that's important to understand, is that revision really is a great mechanism, a great tool, can be, for feeling differently in the now moment about a past event. And thus using that technique to make peace with the past event. Okay. Now, of course, it gets tricky, because if the past event is something you're thinking of, something like a rejection from your significant other, from your specific person, your ex, it's easy to slip into the rejection or the feeling of the rejection, and understand that you're not being rejected again. Okay, because you're thinking of that, but you are feeling the rejection as if it's happening right now in the present moment, and therefore kind of setting yourself up for more rejection. Okay, so this can be a tricky thing. And so I want to say to people, if you're desperately trying to undo the past and use this revision process, it's a great indication, a great big indication, that you are obsessing about that moment. You're obsessing about that event. You haven't really made any peace with it. Okay, and I think that you, the person writing this, person X, are recognizing that here. I see that in your email, because you said, where did you say it? I noticed that I was desperately trying to go back in time, dedicating my energy to change the rejection instead of just focusing on the manifestations I want. In other words, on what do I want now, right? Because if you keep beating the dead horse of the rejection, that's what you're tuning into. And you can't experience and manifest acceptance, let's say the opposite of rejection, acceptance, okay, if you're constantly beating the drum of the rejection, okay? You can't be tuned into the channel, the radio station of acceptance if you're tuning into the radio station of rejection, okay? That's my very convoluted way. I haven't had coffee yet, folks. So yes, I'm glad that you're recognizing that, and I see that very strongly here for you, that you are, you say, I'm desperately trying to go back in time and change this thing. If that's what you're trying to do, then you're kind of barking up the wrong tree. And I want to say this for anybody using any kind of technique, if you're doing it out of desperation, if you're doing it because you so desperately want or need or feel you need to change your current circumstance or get away from your current circumstance, then you're continuing to beat the drum and sing the song and tuning into the station of the thing that you don't want. You keep feeding it energy, okay? Because you keep reacting to it in the same way that you might have reacted to it then, and you keep doing it in the now moment, And what you're doing is you're perpetuating the feeling of that. You're perpetuating the energy of that. And so more of that shows up in your physical reality, because remember, it's just a mirror, okay? It's reflecting your inner state, your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts about the world, your thoughts about relationships or money or whatever the issue happens to be for you at the moment. You're simply reflecting that back to you through your physical reality, simply reflecting that back to you, the mirror of your physical third dimensional reality. So going back to try to change that, is doing things a bit backwards. Again, if you're at ease with the situation, if you're saying, listen, I don't need to change the situation, but I would like to lightly, with a light touch, okay, reimagine it differently so that I can feel a different outcome. Then you're doing it you're doing it the right way, I want to say. You're being playful about it. You're being experimental about it. It's not such a big deal if the past doesn't change. You're not so hyper-focused on the feeling of rejection that you experience. But if you're doing it very desperately, because remember, there's two reasons that people do things. There's two reasons that we do things. Either we're chasing a feeling or a state of mind, or we're trying to run from a feeling or a state of mind. Okay? And so often the two get crisscrossed. Okay? When we think we're chasing one state of mind or one state of being, by running away desperately from another state of mind or state of being. It's time at that point to kind of slow down, stop for a moment, and do exactly what she did. Reflect for a moment and go, well, what is it I'm really perpetuating here? What energy am I really feeding here? If I keep imagining or reimagining or trying to revise the past rejection, am I really just reliving the rejection over and over again? Or am I actually healing it and moving past it? Right? Am I trying to do this out of some desperation? It's a desperate attempt for me to get away from the way I'm feeling right now. That's the question you should be asking yourself with any of these techniques. You know, why am I visualizing right now? Why am I meditating right now? Why am I doing affirmations right now? So many that I see out there do these techniques because they treat them like a chore or a job or something they have to do, or the thing they want will never come. I'm here to tell you, like I've told you many times, you don't actually need to do any of these things ever to manifest what it is that you want. Okay. But if you're doing any of them, you should always do them from a place of being at peace first, being content first. And the way we do that is to begin to look around in our current situation for the things that are working out, for the things that we enjoy, for the things that we appreciate. That's why we practice those things. You've heard of gratitude. I like to call it appreciation. I mentioned that and why in another video a while back. But look, really, honestly, is that if you want to get a different sound in your life, you got to tune into a different radio station. But you can't have your tuner on the same radio station. You want to listen to some country western, it's over here. Okay. And you're listening to like death metal the whole time. Or it could be the other way around. I'm not judging. But, the point I'm trying to make is, you really want to start focusing in the now. If the past is hurting you, I wouldn't go for revising the past so much. I wouldn't go so much for manifesting, or for affirmations and all that if you're doing it from a desperate, place. Okay. I need things to change. I really need things to change. I can't be happy unless they change. Again, this is not manifesting. You need to be able to go into your current state of being and foster that. Take care of that, because as you do, and you do so consistently, and you practice that consistently, your physical reality will match up with that feeling state, with that state of being, that state of mind. Okay. So I'm glad that you recognize that here. So, to answer your question, how can a person tell when they're feeding too much into the past rejection? Again, that's the simple answer. How does it feel when you're doing this process of revision or any kind of process or technique, manifesting technique? Are you doing so from a desperate state of trying to get away from the way you're feeling now? Okay. And thinking that the only way you can feel differently is if the situation or circumstance changes. Well, it's not going to change if you don't feel differently first. And I know that this is not always a satisfying answer for people. And it seems like a lot of work. It really isn't. Okay. All it is just takes a little bit of tweaking in your perspective. That's all it takes, really. All right. Because understand this, and this is the next thing I want to say about this. Why are you so scared of rejection? Or why were you rejected to begin with? In other words, you felt you were rejected, first of all. And again, I'm not going to get into her story, but, there's a whole lot of stuff going on there. Obviously, we can say that about any situation in our lives. We can list all the things that went on and all the little nooks and crannies of the story. But ultimately, in the end, what it comes down to is it's always a reflection of what your inner state is. So if you feel like you're being rejected out there in the world, by lovers, by friends, by prospective jobs, whatever it is, then you have an issue with your self-worth. You have something going on inside of you that is saying, well, I should be rejected. And probably it's a subconscious thought. It's not something you're thinking consciously, walking around going, well, I'm unworthy. I mean, sometimes we do that. Okay, but most of the time it really is very deep-seated kind of limiting belief that you picked up at some point about yourself. And maybe at that point, when you picked up that belief, it served you for some reason. In some way, it served you. Or your ego, which is always trying to protect you, even from good changes, because it doesn't like change, okay, at some point, use this mechanism of seeing yourself as unworthy as a way to protect you. What would be an example of that? You know, well, if I don't even try, then I can't get rejected and hurt because, you know, I'm setting myself up for disappointment. How many times have you heard this in your life? This is one that gets bantered around a lot, you know, in society and culture. Don't set yourself up for rejection, right? I'm kind of paraphrasing that one, but you understand the idea and the sentiment behind that, I think, is that, you know, we adopt these limiting beliefs about ourselves so that we don't even try, so that we don't even change because we think we're protecting ourselves from possible disaster, possible rejection, things like that. Okay. So, again, at some point that limiting belief might have served you. But then at another point, you begin to progress and grow. You begin to learn about this manifesting stuff, and you even do well. You know, you do well in changing your perception about yourself and changing your inner state, but there's still this limiting belief bouncing around. So you have that going on. And and the thing is, you still have it going on now because you're focusing on the rejection aspect of that past relationship. Okay. So, and that's the thing. So, instead of saying, well, why is the world rejecting me? You need to be looking inside and going, well, why do I feel worthy of rejection? Or why do I not feel worthy of having the things that I want? Why do I feel unworthy of love? Why do I feel unworthy of being accepted? Okay. Because that's the part that you need to tweak. All right. And I think the very simple way to tweak it is to simply understand, first of all, that's like half the battle, understanding that it's emanating from you, that you're the source of it, okay? And that you have a limiting belief and they're not scary, okay? Once you understand, oh, there's a limiting belief, it's actually very easy to deal with. Now, it may take a little time to deal with, okay? I'm not saying that it won't, but it's easy to deal with because all you do is simply begin to focus on the opposite of that state of being. In other words, you sit down with yourself. Okay, you can do it this way very ceremoniously. You sit down with yourself and say, well, where in my world right now, where in my physical environment right now, am I not being rejected? Where am I feeling acceptance? Where am I feeling success? Where am I feeling worthy of things? Are you being rejected by everyone and everything in your life? Of course you're not. Okay. But you're focusing on that idea of rejection, then you're only going to see the things where you feel rejected. Okay. That's, again, you can't be tuned into, one radio station, one frequency, and then be listening to another radio station whose frequency you're not tuned into. It's impossible. So if you're only thinking of rejection, that's all you're going to see. If you wake up in the morning and all you see is horrible things in the world, that's all you're going to see all day long. People are going to talk about it to you. They're going to show you newspaper stories. All you're going to see on the internet when you're cruising on your phone is that, okay? You turn on the TV, that's all you're going to see. Because again, that's reflecting back to you what you're focusing on most of the time. But is that all that's happening in the world? Is that all that's happening in your life? Of course not. There are many good things happening in the world. There are amazing things happening in your life. There are many areas in your life where you are loved and accepted, okay? And so that's what you do. You switch your focus to that. This is why we practice things like gratitude and appreciation. This is why it's so important in manifesting, because it helps you switch your focus towards what it is that you prefer. And so start looking for the things right now in your life. Forget the past situation for a bit, okay? And start looking for things and situations in your life currently where you feel the opposite, where the opposite of this rejection idea is actually occurring. And the more you look at it, the more of it you'll see. You'll be like, oh my goodness. Oh, wow. I feel loved and warm and accepted over here. Oh, I feel that way with my friends. I feel that way with my family. My dog loves me and accepts me. My dog ain't going to reject me. Even my cat's not going to reject me because she knows where the food's coming from. You know how cats are. But this is important. Okay. This is an important thing because you really you want to do that work. That's the work. The work is really changing your perception. okay, of yourself, of your reality. And understand that all things are always happening at the same time. All possibilities are happening. There's good things happening right now, and there's not so good things happening right now. Or rather, I should say there's wanted and unwanted things happening all the time at the same time. You get to decide and choose which of those things you focus on. And the more you focus on one or the other, the more you're going to draw like things that are like that into your physical reality, the more evidence of those things you're going to see. And this is what we do, okay? We focus on something really negative. Then our physical reality brings more of those things that match that frequency and that focus into our physical reality. And then we go, see, look, I was right. There's the evidence of that. But actually, all you were doing was making it prominent in your field of vision, so to speak. Making it prominent in your physical reality. It's not evidence of anything other than that, okay? It's not evidence that you're right, that the world is a crappy place and garbage and people are horrible. No, that's not evidence of that. It's evidence of the fact that that's what you're focusing on, okay? And every single time these things happen, these unwanted things happen in your life, you should stop as a deliberate creator and say, oh, look at what I'm focusing on. Look at what I've been highlighting in my awareness. All right? That's all it is. So now let's highlight the opposite. I don't like this situation or this circumstance. Well, let's highlight the opposite of that. What's the opposite of that? Now I focus on that. Okay? And the more you focus on that, and again, it could take practice because it's going to, you practice the limiting belief. It took a long time for you to practice that. Maybe you weren't aware you were practicing it, but you were. Okay. So when you felt rejected by your ex, you had already been practicing that idea of rejection. That's why the rejection occurred. Okay. So maybe you weren't aware of it at the time, but that's what was happening. All right. And that's still what's happening. So I want to say, in terms of, yes, I see you feeding a lot, even just writing me the email. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have written me the email. I'm very glad that you did. But again, understanding and recognizing the fact, well, even I'm writing Tarkan about this issue, well, then I know right then and there that I'm feeding a lot of energy into that, a lot of thought and focus and attention into that, because I feel the need to sit down and actually write an email to somebody about it. I'm talking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm discussing it. You're keeping that energy alive, you see. And the thing to do here is to unhook from that. Okay, and hook on to the opposite. Again, like I said, where in your life and your reality right now are things happening that are going well, that aren't about rejection, or that are about the opposite of rejection, where you feel accepted, where you feel part of a community, where you feel loved and appreciated. Okay, and again, I'm going to say it begins with you. Okay, it begins with loving yourself, accepting yourself. All right, appreciating yourself. Listing all the good things. This is another technique I want to say, all right? Listing all the good things about yourself that you can think of. And there's going to be tons of those things. And maybe for some of you out there, that's going to be difficult. When you sit down and Tarkan told me to sit down with a notebook and a pen and write down things I love about myself. Tall order, but it's not. If you can think of one or two things, all the other things will start flooding into your reality. If you can think of one or two things that are going really well in your life right now, that you appreciate in your life right now, watch how that domino tips all the other dominoes over. And before you know it, you've got 50 things that you're writing down, and you can't write them down fast enough. I've experienced it, guys. You just have to start somewhere. Okay. You got to start. So once you start, and that's always half the battle, is starting. Once you start, you'll see that all kinds of things start flooding into your mind. Reasons to be happy about your life, reasons to be happy about yourself, things to appreciate about yourself, things to appreciate about others in your life. Okay. So that the more you do that, the less space you're going to have in that monkey mind of yours to think about rejection and horrible things and unwanted things. Okay. That thought will go into the background, and you'll understand that there's much more of the opposite of that happening in your life than the actual thing that you're so afraid of, that you want to change so desperately. Okay. So I start going off on a tangent and then I lose my spot. So how can we move past it? Well, I just explained that to you. That's really the best way to move past it. And again, I've said that many times, and I'm sure I've said that in our coaching session. I don't quite remember, but that's something that I would say, and that would always be my first advice in that area. Okay, focus on the things that are working, and focus on the things that you appreciate, and focus on the things you love and appreciate and respect about yourself and accept about yourself. Okay, if you're going to revise the past. Okay, there's another thing I want to say. I might not even take the route of going to the day that you felt the rejection or the day of the breakup and try to revise that. I would go to the day that you got together. And there was a time in your relationship with your ex where you felt accepted by him, where you felt loved by him, where you felt elated, where you felt like, ooh, he's really into me. He's accepting me, right? Focus and relive that day. All right? Because it wasn't all bad. It never is, okay? It's never all bad. So focus on the day that things went well and all the days that things went well, where you felt loved, where you felt attractive, where you felt wanted by him, okay? Because there was probably more of that going on than the rejection. It's just, again, you're blowing up the rejection in your mind and making that the biggest factor of that whole relationship. It couldn't have been the only and biggest factor of that relationship or any of your relationships. At some point you got together. At some point they loved you. At some point you loved them. At some point you had that attitude of, yeah, I'm awesome. Of course they love me. Of course they're with me. Focus on that. If you're going to focus on something in the past, focus on the good things in the past. Bring that energy forth again, okay? And practice it. Practice feeling it. Another thing I want to say about the idea of rejection is that you can simply rewrite the script on that in terms of you just rename the thing. It's not a rejection. Maybe there is no such thing as rejection. I personally don't think there is a thing as rejection. I like the term redirection. Okay, or course correction, all right? Because sometimes, and this starts to get into sort of your inner being, higher being guiding you kind of thing, which it's always doing. It's always guiding you towards what you want. It knows what you want. It knows you want a reconciliation. It knows you want a new relationship with this person. It also understands that you must be a cooperative component in that endeavor. It can't make you feel okay about yourself. It can only guide you to how to feel okay about yourself. So often what the universe does is it highlights and points out to us the very thing that is kind of standing in our way. Okay? So it'll say to you, yes, the thing you want is there, but not right now. You can't have it right now because you're not a match to that energy. It's not that it's punishing you or holding it from you. You simply cannot do it that way. You can't fit the square into the round hole or whatever it is, okay? You need to shape yourself to fit into that situation. So it highlights the things that are standing in your way or that you're putting in your own way. It highlights your own obstacles. So the issue here is rejection, okay? And so the universe will often show you this by offering you up a rejection. Okay. It'll say, well, it can't help it really. Okay. It has to. It has to be a match. So these things will happen. But again, it's sort of like, it's always trying to get you towards where you want to be. So it's going to show you, hey, you're pressing on the brake instead of the gas pedal here. Okay. You're steering over this way instead of over this way. All right. Maybe it has you crash into a tree for a moment to kind of show you that you were, just heading off the road. Okay. So sometimes something like that will happen. A rejection will occur, or in other words, why did it occur to begin with is another question that people have. And I say, well, you weren't rejected. You were redirected, because you have to deal with that issue. That issue comes up, and it's like the universe saying, well, you got to deal with that issue to keep going on to where you want to keep going. This is the next step to dealing with it. Okay. To getting on the path of what it is you want is to deal with this issue of rejection. So write that guy Tarkan some letter and have him do a video on this so that he can tell you that you need to be focusing on the things that are working in your life rather than the things that aren't working. You need to be focusing on the things that worked out in your past rather than the things that didn't work out in your past. And as you do that, you're practicing the frequency of the thing that you want. You're practicing the energy and the focus of the thing that you want. Remember, you're only going to get back what you focus on. If If you're focusing on rejection, that's what you're going to get more of. And you're going to get it in the now moment. You're creating it in the now moment. You're thinking about a past rejection, but as you're doing that, you are in the now moment practicing the idea and the energy and the focus of rejection. Okay? So switching the focus to acceptance, that's the only thing I can think of that word-wise that is the opposite of rejection. Acceptance, I suppose. Practicing that energy instead is the solution to this. That's the answer. Okay? Think about that more often than you think about rejection. And the more you think about acceptance, where it is in your life now, where it's been in your past, even with this specific relationship, the less you're going to focus on the idea of rejection. The more you focus on accepting yourself, respecting yourself, loving yourself, appreciating yourself, the less rejection and disrespect and all those things you're going to get from your physical reality and from all those in your physical reality. That is really, that's really it. Okay. That's the best answer I can give you. And I know that, you guys know this stuff. And I know that oftentimes what I'm doing here is to just remind you of these things. So I know you know this already, and your inner being knows this already. You can trust that inner voice. That's the next kind of thing to say about this, or the last thing I want to say about this is trust that inner voice. Okay. Learn to read your emotional guidance system. All right. Again, you don't have to react negatively to the idea of rejection. You can rewrite the story around that. What does rejection even mean? And you can even change the word. I wouldn't use the word at all anymore. I would use redirection, course correction. Oh, here's the universe redirecting me. Here's the universe telling me that I'm off the course a little bit. Okay, now I know. Thank you, GPS. Thank you, universal, satellite system that is always guiding me and directing me towards what it is I want, towards the best outcomes in my life. Okay. Now I understand that this has been sticking in my craw. This has been the issue. So now I know from watching Tarkan's video what to do about that. Okay. Now I know that I just need to stop focusing on that. And I stop focusing on that by focusing on the opposite of it and looking for it and thinking about it wherever it is in my existence, in my reality right now. Okay. And that's really the long and short of it, folks. All right. That's the skinny on that. So, I hope that's helped you. I hope that's helped you, person who wrote this, person X, and I hope that's helped all of you out there watching this video. Thank you so much for your email and for sharing that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please do so now. Thank you so much for your donations, guys. I really appreciate them. If you want to donate, there's a couple links down below in the description box, one for PayPal, one for Cash App, whichever is easier. Share this video with anyone that you think might benefit from it. Okay. And hit that likes button and hit that bell thing and all the things. You know all the things. You watch a lot of YouTube videos, I'm sure. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'm Tarkan. And until next time, I wish you happy manifesting and bye-bye.